Well, hey everybody, Cleta the Cheetah here. Today is April the 1st, 2024. And Mary Kay has done something kind of crazy is they gave us March the 32nd. So we are actually closing out the month of March today. But I was putting on my makeup this morning and I thought, you ever watched any of those programs where the girl is putting on her makeup and she's telling like a mystery of something that happened and you just get sucked in and you're listening to her story and watching her put her makeup on. Anyway, I thought I should do that. So you're like, why? Okay. So I thought I have had people say, Cleta, how did you get into Mary Kay? You've been in so long. Why have you stayed with it all these years? Or are you still selling that little Mary Kay thing? And I'm like, yep, still doing that little Mary Kay thing. And is it something that you always thought you would do? That was your goal in life? No. So I thought I'd just tell my little story here while I finish putting my makeup on. So I'll put the colors in the description in case you wanted to know if I can remember them when I get done. But anyway, and my camera, I have a new, not new anymore, but it's an iMac and it kind of moves around with you. So I'm sorry if it just moves around while I talk. But anyway, so I will just say that I joined Mary Kay 38 years ago. And when I joined, I never, here's the thing. My grandmother sold Mary Kay in the 60s. My Aunt Martha sold Mary Kay in the 60s. And another Aunt Angela, I think she's the one that got him in, sold Mary Kay in the 60s and 70s. And so late 60s, early 70s. So in my mother's bathroom were always Mary Kay products. You know, she had this stuff called liquid gold. That's what she called it. And then she had a little thing that had this loose oatmeal in it. And it was an oatmeal mask. And she would mix it with water in the lid and put it on your face and let it dry, and then take it off and do this liquid gold, what they called it was the toner freshener on top of it. And and then she had foundation, but it was in a pancake. And anyway, we did grow up I grew up in the South in Georgia, and we wore makeup, to school. And I don't even know who taught me how to put on makeup. I don't think it was my mom, probably a girlfriend. But anyway, it was like if we ever got up, this is when we were teens, if we got up, my sister and I, we didn't feel good. We're like, I don't want to go to school today. She goes, get up, take a shower, put your makeup on. And then if you still don't feel like going, you don't have to go. Well, of course, when you get up and do all that, you know, you might as well just go on to school. And so anyway, I did not wear Mary Kay products. There was some pearl lip gloss that smelled really good, and you could even taste it. Like it had a flavor. Isn't that crazy? And so I did use that every now and then. And I really like that. But that's about it. So I ended up I was more of a sports girl. I played basketball and I played softball in high school. Ran a little track. I did not like track. They made me do it. I went to a small Christian school. So if you were decent in one sport, you had to do them all. So anyway, end up going to college in Arkansas, Harding University. Harding is a Christian university, and it's where my dad graduated. And so I went and looked at some other colleges. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about going to Michigan, Michigan Christian College, which is now, I think Rochester is what they call it. But anyway, I went up there and checked it out. It was really cold. And they're like, look, you'd be the basketball star if you came up here. They want me to play ball. But I ended up going to Harding, and I really liked the people there. They were so nice. I got to stay in the dorm overnight. And I also went to David Lipscomb University. I think it's just called Lipscomb now, but in Tennessee. And I checked out Oklahoma Christian in Oklahoma. And so anyway, I really liked Harding. So that's where I ended up going to college. And my first year, I thought I didn't know what to major in. You take these tests. And so my mother suggested that I should major in home economics. Okay, so that's what we call your MRS degree, because it'll help you when you get married. Okay, and it was cooking for the home, sewing, sewing for the home, and then, nutrition and all this stuff. So that's what I did. I took some basics and then I took those classes. And, I just decided after my first year, I'm like, I don't think this is me. I mean, like I had to get up in the mornings and go and put on like a lab coat and learn how to cook this stuff that I didn't even like to eat. I was a really picky eater. And so we would cook it and then we'd have to go in there and you'd have to eat what you cooked. And so anyway, and then on the sewing, I remember we had to make a pair of underwear. We had to make a button-down shirt. I gave it to my daddy. My daddy passed away a couple years ago, but when I was, I think 50 something, we were going somewhere and he had that button-down shirt on that I made him. I'm like, Daddy, that is hilarious that he kept it all those years. Anyway, I did learn how to do it, but then after that, I decided, that's not for me. What else could I do? I mean, what else could I major in? And so I decided to switch my major from home economics to business, computer information systems. That was my major. And so I did real well in it. It just was pretty easy for me. Now, this is before people had computers at their house. It was like the mainframes. Okay. If you're young, you don't even know what that is, but this is before cell phones, before answering machines, and before personal computers. So when I graduated with that degree, people still didn't have computers in their home yet. These were, if you're older, you might remember the screens that had they were black with green text. Okay. And it took forever you to get online and all this kind of stuff, And so anyway, while I was at college, I met a girl, a lady. She wasn't in college, but she was a friend of mine, Sandra Bose, and she sold Mary Kay. So when I graduated, I ended up going to get my first job, and I stayed in Arkansas, and they wanted me to. One of my teachers wanted me to apply for the administrative computer center operator there for Harding University. And I thought, all right, so I applied for other things. I applied for this job in Dallas. I applied for several things in Dallas. I think that they would come down to Harding and, do a career day. And I remember saying, they go, what is your best strength? What's your best weakness? What's your something on your weakness? And I would say, well, I'm a people person, blah, blah, blah. And this is for a computer job. Okay. And then they go, what would be your weakness? And I'd say, I really just don't like sitting behind a desk all day. And, I'm sure they thought, eh. And so like I did not get those jobs. So I applied for that job, the computer center operator. And I didn't get it. They gave it to a guy. No girl had ever applied. And so they gave it to a guy instead because he was married and he was stable and he was a guy. Okay. Discrimination, right? And so they said, well, why don't you just work as a programmer, a computer programmer in the office? And I thought, I don't want to do that, And they said, well, it'd be good experience and it'll look good on your resume and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know. So they talked me into it. So I'm going to get to Mary Kay in a minute. But anyway, so I went ahead and I applied for that. And then look at this. This is my one little wrinkle I always have to fade out. I didn't apply for that. I just went ahead and they gave it to me. Okay. So I decided to do that. And I ended up graduating December. So I started doing that. And guess what happened? Okay. 3 months later, or 3 or 4 months later, the stable guy that they gave the job to that got married, guess what he did? He moved. So then they came to me and they're like, hey, do you want this job? And I should have said, no, sorry. You didn't give it to me the first time. I'm not taking it now. But I didn't. I took the job. So I was literally working in a basement of the administrative building. And it was, You go in my office, and then there was this big room behind it with glass. And there were these big mainframe computers, these big, think reel to reel. And so I would have to sit in there, and it was really, really cold because you had to keep the equipment that cannot be hot. You had to be really cold. And so I was so I worked down there in the basement and froze. I had to wear like, big sweaters every day. And so anyway, took that job, and at Harding, there was a Sandra Bose that I met. She worked at Harding too, and she worked in a different office. And I would see her all the time when I would go to check the mail or go to lunch or whatever. And her husband and my boyfriend at the time played ball together. So we'd sit together at the games. And anyway, she's the one that sold Mary Kay. And she would always talk to me about trying Mary Kay, you know, wanted me to have a facial. And I was getting this stuff in the mail called World of Beauty. Okay, now you guys, this is back in the day. Okay. And people think things are new. You know how you have these beauty boxes that come in the mail and all this. Well, this was World of Beauty, and it was $9.95, and you got different makeup. Every month they send it to you, and you would get to test it, and if you liked it, you could buy some more of it or whatever. And so she would be going to the mail with me, and she'd see me get that, and she would go, "Cleta, you just need to try some Mary Kay." She said that stuff probably isn't any good, and I'm like, yeah. My grandma sold Mary Kay, and so anyway, she kept on at me, and finally, one day, I don't know what happened. She broke. Oh, I do know what happened. It was in July, and I got engaged to be married, and I thought, well, this might be a good idea to go get my makeup done, and then I can just whatever, not have a facial. My face was really oily. I broke out most of the time, and I thought, well, I'll go over there, and I thought I'm not even going to take any money because I really wasn't expecting to really like it. But and when I tell you, like the products I use, they're from Walmart. Like I did not use like some nice brand or anything. I couldn't afford it because even though I had that full-time job, I wasn't making any money. I mean, like just a little bit over minimum wage. I remember one time after working there a year, I got a 5-cent raise. 5 cents. And I just thought, really? Oh, I could buy an extra Coke a week. Anyway, that's kind of crazy, isn't it? Well, that's the way it was. So so I went over to have a facial, and I went to her house, and I don't know where that color. I don't have what I need in here. Do I? Yes, I do. Um, so they had this thing they were doing back in Mary Kay at the time, and they did this color wheel, and you would pick your favorite colors on the color wheel, and they tell you if you were cool or warm. And of course, I was both. So we did the facial, and so she did half the face in cool colors, like blue eyeshadow, pinks, and then this side she did in browns and more, neutral colors and warm colors. And so, but believe it or not, when I really, my skin felt so good after I had that facial. And so I'm like, I kind of want to buy this basic skincare set and the foundation and the concealer. And so, hang on, I gotta do my lip liner. I feel I need to check that. I think yeah, I do need to check it a little bit. Hang on. To be continued. This is the hot pink lip liner. And I even like to wear this lipstick. But I'm gonna put some lipstick on. That's a good one. This is hot pink lipstick. And I still use this lip primer. We don't even have it anymore, but I have it because it helps me with the lines around my mouth. Okay, now I'm finished telling my story. So I went over her house and had a facial, and I really wanted to base it. And I said, well, Sandra, I said, I didn't bring my money. I didn't have any money. So I didn't have any money to bring. And she said, that's okay, Cleta. She said, you can pay me. We got paid on Thursdays every week. She said, you can pay me on Thursday. And every week you can just pay me $20 a week. I'm like, score. So she went to her off, like we were doing in the kitchen this, so she went into the back room, and she came out with a bag like of the products. And so I got the basic skincare, and at the time it was a cleanser, a mask, a freshener, a moisturizer, and your foundation. That was the basic. And then I got some concealer with that. And I wanted the color, but I just couldn't afford it. And so she said, you ought to have a party, because if you had a party, you could get that color for free and invite some of your girls. I'm like, they're not going to buy nothing, but all right, I'll do it. So I paid my basic on the payment plan. And here's the thing. I can remember my face in 2 weeks. Like, I had bumps, it cleared up so much that when I went home from to Georgia, my sister's like, what kind of makeup are you using? I'm like, I don't even have any on. I said, I started using Mary Kay, and it cleared my face up. She's like, wow. She called the Mary Kay consultant here in town. It's Mary Dodson. And she, of course, my mom was thrilled that I'm using Mary Kay, right? And so my sister started using Mary Kay. And so anyway, we ended up, so I ended up I went back to school. I'm not to school, but back to Arkansas to work. And I had a party. And at my party, I don't know, I had 5 or 6 people there. She told me to have 6. So that's what I had, 5 and me. And she came over to my little 1-bedroom apartment. And I'm telling you, my friends, they started buying products, and they bought over $300 of product. And 3 of the people booked parties from my party. And then, so I got a whole compact, all my glamour free from her. And I was so excited. And I can just remember, this is when the phones were hanging on the walls. Okay, so I can remember standing in my little 1-bedroom and calling my mother and telling her, and I'm 22 years old, and telling her about this party. And so she was like, Cleta, instead of having that party and being a hostess, doing that kind of stuff, you should think about selling this. And it's so funny, that week I had needed new tires on my car. Well, my parents bought me a car my sophomore year after my brother graduated. Excuse me for a moment. No one should blow their nose on live TV, live on a live video, but you can't let it drip either. um, but she said, you ought to think about doing that. But because I had just had to have 4 new tires. And what do you do when you're single and you're 22, and even though you have a job, you call your mom and daddy. And so they helped me, sent me the money to help me do my tires. I'm sure they were thinking at some point, you have to pay your own bills. And so, but my check was like 120 a week after they took out all the stuff. When you're young and you get that job and you like, then you get it and they're like, what's all this taken out? I barely make anything. I'm working all day long. And that's how I was. Well, anyway, so I talked to the consultant. I talked to Sandra, and I said, my mama said that she thinks that I ought to do something like this, that I ought to sell Mary Kay. And she goes, well, I've always told you you'd be good, Cleta. I think you'd be great. And so she sat down with me and she talked to me about this, what we call at the time, your beauty showcase. And it was this big pink box that opened up like this. And it looked like, it looked like a lab kit. Okay. And everything were like these tubes that you squirted out of, and they hung down. It was so awesome. And anyway, it was $85. And so by the time we put the tax and everything, it was $100. And and then I knew she had inventory because when I bought from her, she just went to her room and got it and brought it to me. And I thought, you probably want to get some of that too, because I would have definitely canceled. I'm the kind of person that, would buy encyclopedias and then I would change my mind and then, or some kind of, vacuum cleaner when they came over, and then I'd have buyer's regret. I'm an impulse buyer, and so I'd cancel it if it hadn't come in yet, right? But she gave it to me, so I used it. So then I stayed on it. Well, anyway, I didn't realize you had to buy a kit to get in, right? And so I didn't have the money. So I told her I was really busy, which I wasn't busy. I was cross stitching at night. That's the truth. And so she's like, well, just come to me one of my meetings. And we'd go to the meetings in Little Rock, Arkansas. I lived in Searcy. It was an hour drive. And I'm thinking to myself, no, I'm not going to one of those meetings because they're going to want me to sell and I don't have the money. And so why go? So I'd put her off. This is July. Y'all, she kept asking me, asking me, asking me, asking me, asking me. And then finally in September, she asked me, it was September the 12th, and she asked me to go to this meeting. And it was at the director's house. They were having a potluck dinner. And her husband, my boyfriend, which I had married at the time, so it was my husband, they went and played ball in Little Rock, and she and I went to the Mary Kay meeting. And I told her, I said, listen, I'm not going to sell Mary Kay. I said, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I'm not going to do it. She goes, I don't care. That's fine. Just come. I just need a guess. Y'all know what happened. Okay. So I go in there, all these women there. There's women my age, women older than me. She was about 16 years older than me, which made her only like 40, but they were older than that. And then they were younger. And so you had to be 18 to sign up. So I was one of the younger ones. But anyway, um, they look so sharp. They all had like business suits on, and I was a business major, remember? And so I thought, I really wanted to do it after I went to that event. And so I started asking around people, how'd you get your money? What'd you do? And then someone told me, she goes, I just went and got a loan for mine. And because at the time, Mary Kay didn't take credit cards, no credit cards, cashier's check only. That's how we ran the business. And so I thought, So I left that meeting. We drove back and I didn't tell her a thing, but I thought, I want to do this. And so I ended up that next day, I got in the mail a letter from my mom and dad, and it was the title to my Ford Escort wagon, my 1981 Ford Escort wagon that I had driven and for 3 years. And I had the title and I thought, well, so I just marched my little self up to the bank and I told them that I needed a business loan. And they're thinking, $30,000, $40,000 or more. I was thinking, they said, well, how much do you need? I said, $1,000. Now, y'all, you don't have to, there's not a certain amount you got to do, but that's what I asked for. And I felt like I was asking for 100,000. I'm not even kidding. And so anyway, they looked at my account and of course I had about $80 in there. And they're like, how are you going to pay for this? And I told them I'm selling Mary Kay, la, la, la. And they're like, we're going to need some collateral. And so I whipped out my purse and I had my car title and I handed it right over. I mean, like I had it for a day and handed it right over to the bank. And they're like, okay. And I'm like, really? Okay. So they gave me the money. My payments were $89 a month. And I thought, all right, that's selling less than $25 a week. I mean, if I have to sit out in my car at the Walmart parking lot and get people to come look at it, I will, which of course I didn't do that. But in my mind, I thought I at least could sell $25 a week. My mama uses it. My aunts use it. My sister uses it. So there's 4 customers right there. And so anyway, I called my consultant. I said, Sandra, I got the money. I said, I'm going to sign up and I'm going to do my order. And because she had already told me about some of the orders. And so in the same envelope, I had my Mary Kay Beauty Consultant agreement and I had my order, which that's the way we send them in anyway. We mailed them all in. There's none of this calling in or doing them online. And so I mailed my order with a cashier's check. I spent all that money except for about $100. And I thought maybe I could use it to get my business cards and my name tag and the things like that, labels to put on the product. And so then my director calls me and she said, now, Cleta, you need to book 8 parties and you need to schedule them so you can hold book 8 and hold 5 in your first 2 weeks. And I thought, I said, well, when does that week start? You know, and she said, it starts a week from today. It's a week from when I mailed it in. So I said, well, what if my kit's not here? She goes, you can borrow Sandra's. And I said, oh, all right. And so, I had had a facial and I had been to a party, and that was all the training that I had had, right? And so I just did what they said. So I got on the phone, I made a list, and I called everybody I could think of, and I got 8 parties on the books. And so, y'all, the kit came in on that next Monday. Okay. So, like, I went to the sales meeting on one Monday. I ordered the stuff on Tuesday. The kit came in on Monday. And on Tuesday was my first party. And I lived in apartment number 9, and it was in apartment number 19. It was two of my friends, or 3 people. So I went upstairs, dragged my stuff upstairs, and did the party. And it took forever. Oh, and my consultant said, do you want me to do it for you? And I said, no, that's fine. Or go with you. I'm like, no, I'll do it myself. If I mess up, I'm gonna be the only one that knows. I should have let her go, because I sold $35, like a one liner, one eyeliner, one lip liner or something. I mean, just 2 little items, and it was $35. And I was kind of ticked off at my friends, to be honest with you. But we made half of that, and that was $17. What's half of $17.35, right? $17.50. Okay. And it took me 2 hours to do it. That was $8.75 an hour. Okay. Now that sounds bad, but do you know I was only making $4.05 an hour sitting at the computer center? So I thought, I just doubled my money, even though it was so pitiful, right? So I had another party on Thursday, and it was all the computer programmers. And I thought, they ain't gonna buy nothing because they don't even wear makeup. They all bought the skincare. And then I had another party on Saturday, and by the end of the week, I had sold $400, y'all. So my profit on that was more than I made that week at my other job. And so I went to the sales meeting, and it was a big monthly whatever meeting where all the units got together in Little Rock. And so we went up there, and of course my consultant said, you need to wear a dress or a skirt. And I'm like, all right. So here I put on my Sunday dress. I didn't wear dresses, except for the church on Sunday morning. So I put on my Sunday dress and my heels. And she said, and you need to bring a dessert. I'm like, okay, even though I had that cooking background, I still didn't cook. So I made the one and only thing I know how to make, and it was chocolate oatmeal cookies. Okay, no bakes. Made those. I put them on this plate that was a yellow smiley face plastic plate. Okay, this is way before emojis, right? The yellow plate with a smiley face. And I put them on there, and I put some wrap on it, and it didn't stick. And when it was just like loose on there. And I got to the meeting. So I'm going up on the side. There's about, I don't even know, a couple hundred people there. It's like a big meeting. So I was taking my cookies to the front. I got these heels on, this dress. I feel awkward. I got my plate of cookies, and I stumble. Yes, down the aisle. And I caught myself, but all the cookies flew off the plate onto the floor. So there I am on my hands and knees picking up these cookies at the very first meeting. And so I don't even remember. I don't know if I took them in the trash can, if I put them up and took them back up there to eat. I don't even remember. It's before germs, right? But what I do remember is that they did a count up, and I didn't know if I was good or bad, but I was the queen of sales. I sold 400, and I was the queen. They put a crown on my head, and they put a feather boa around me. And then the director that was in charge, she says, everybody stand up and bow to the queen. So everybody got up and they bowed. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, I was never the homecoming queen or anything else anybody bowed to. I could not believe it. And I was so excited. Went home. I had my other parties. And by the way, I thought, why are we booking 8 and only going to hold 5 of them? But they knew that some postponed on you. And so I went home, and I had another great week because I had all those parties. I did my perfect start. That's what they called it. So I did 30 faces within the first 2 weeks of my Mary Kay career. And then what they taught us is that we want to do 3 plus 3 plus 3, 3 parties a week, $300 in sales, and talk to 3 people about the opportunity. And so I try to do that every single week. I didn't do the opportunity as much as I should have at the beginning. But my first recruit was a girl named Linda. She asked me if she could sign up. She was one of the computer programmers. She's still in my unit today. And she came in, she got out, she came back in. And then the second recruit was my sister. She was a college student, Connie, and she's still in today. She's been in 37 years. And my third recruit, she was a hostess and she signed up. But I didn't really get 3 active, like that's called your red jacket or star team builder, until I know it was my second year, because the first year I went to seminar, I just wore, it was like time to go to seminar. And I thought, what am I going to wear? I'd only been in 8 months and I thought probably everybody wears pink. It's Mary Kay. And since I didn't know how to sew, I made a pink suit, pink skirt, pink jacket with massive shoulder pads, and a flowery shirt to go under it. And I thought, I will be the bomb.com in my homemade pink suit. And that is what I wore to seminar. And then they had the awards night and it said formal, but I honestly didn't understand formal meant like a long evening dress. I thought, what do I have? What's the nicest dress I have? My Easter dress. Yes, I did. So I had my flowery Easter dress on for seminar. And then our directors put us with some rooms because my consultant couldn't come, my recruiter. So they just put me with a couple of the girls, and they come out these long black evening dresses. And I'm like, well, hussy, look at y'all. And I've got my Easter dress on. Anyway, so funny. But I had a ball. That was my first seminar was 1986. And it was called Starting Here, Starting Now. And it was amazing. I thought there'd probably be a bunch of old Lawrence Welk music, and because Mary Kay was old in my mind at the time, she's only 50 at the time or something like that. And but it was all up to date music, and I'm like, wow. Mary Kay came on stage, people were crying. It was something else I just never experienced before. And I I came home from that seminar, and I'm like, I think I just changed. Then I thought, you know what? I gotta get on this thing, you know. And so the next year, I still was at Arkansas. I actually was in my red jacket and I took team members with me. I think 3 went with me. And then I moved to Georgia and moved back to Georgia where I'm from. And there were no directors in town, so I had no sales meetings or anything like that. But I did, every time I would come home, I would do a party. And so I sold a lot of product, y'all. I was queen of sales my first year in my unit. And so I always was a good seller. And so I met a girl, Deborah Bishop. She was a Mary Kay beauty consultant who was in qualification to become a sales director here in Valdosta. So I met her. She was doing a little table at the courthouse and with her products. And my mom met her actually and introduced me and my sister to her. And so we started meeting with her before she was a director. And then she had a big director. She won her first car, earned it from Mary Kay. And then she became a sales director. I went to her debut and I invited 25 people to go with me because there were no meetings there. So I didn't have anybody to invite anybody to anything. And I had 13 people show up as a guest. Can you imagine going to a guest event and having 13 guests? Well, 3 people signed up at the guest event. Those 3 people, I already had 3. That gave me 6. And so I got on target for my first car, which was a red Pontiac Grand Am, a 1989 red Pontiac Grand Am. And so I earned the use of that in, let's see, October of 1988. But it was an 89 car. And then I went into director qualification right after that. She had to earn the car first. And then I became a sales director February 1st, 1989, which is 35 years ago. 2 months was 35 years as a sales director. And when I went back to Georgia, I was working for my dad at Colson Printing Company as the computer manager there. And so when I became a sales director, I decided to leave Colson Printing. I did try it to do part-time for a little bit, but that didn't work too good. So after about 3 months, I left Colson Printing and just was a Mary Kay sales director. And that was the only income that I brought in. That was my career. And so I made that decision 35 years ago. And I have had a ball. I've had ups and downs, of course, in Mary Kay. Everybody does, right? Years that are great, years that aren't so great. But a long time ago, I decided I was not going to quit. And it's funny that you could be excited about something that you started 38 years ago, still today. Like a lot of my friends are retiring. They're like so ready to retire. And I'm good to go. So that's my little Mary Kay story. That only goes for the first 3 years of my career, and so one day, maybe I'll get on here and do some different parts of my Mary Kay career, but that's how I got started, and, I absolutely love it. So, makeup is done for the day. Thank you for watching. I'm sure you have a story. I would love to hear it. Have an awesome day.